bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Welcome to the Bottom Line Podcast, the career of Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is our very first episode. We're really excited. I'm here with John Viveris, or JV, as he likes to go by. I'm Mike Pru, and if you haven't listened to any of our stuff before, you may have if you're listening to this. We are the guys from the Hurricane Rana Wrestling Podcast, and we wanted to do something different. And this was our idea that we had going back a couple of months to just kind of break away from doing reviews of pay-per-views and watching Raw and watching SmackDown and watching Cruiserweights and just watching whatever there is, which is so much at this point. So we wanted to just break away and go back into something that we really cared about when we were teenagers, and that is Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Attitude Era. JV, you want to pop in?
A nice little rundown memory lane. Something, switch it up. It's not going to be current events, but for most of us, it'll probably bring you back to your childhood. And you can kind of relive the glory of, who really was the forefront of the Attitude Era. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Absolutely. And what we plan to do is a little different than most podcasts. A lot of podcasts are doing retro type stuff lately, and that's kind of where I get the idea from. But I wanted to just focus on Stone Cold. He was my favorite wrestler as a teenager growing up, and still holds to this day. If he ever makes an appearance, I listen to his podcast, so he's still very entertaining. And I thought it would be a good tribute to just kind of break through his career week by week on this show. What we'll be doing is covering a month at a time. So the build up to whatever pay-per-view match is coming up. So today, for instance, we're covering January 1996, but we're going to do a build up to that point. So January 1996 was his first month in year in the WWF at the time. And Royal Rumble is the main pay-per-view of January. So we're going to lead up and build up to that. Okay, so we are going to do some other things, though. We are going to give a little recap of the time before he was in WWF. So take a look at some of his greatest hits of WCW. Also take a look at his very brief time in ECW, and then his debut as the Ringmaster. So, which, glad it doesn't last long, because we wouldn't want to be doing too many episodes about the Ringmaster. So,
not as cool as the name is Stone Cold.
No, not as Stone Cold, yeah. So that's just it's kind of a recap of the whole premise of the show, what we want to do here. And we're going to take it. It's going to be a slow burn. It's going to build up. It's going to get really good at times. And we have this already mapped out, so it's going to be about a year. So if you stick with us for a year, you get the whole story of Stone Cold Steve Austin. We'll try to bring in as much details that we can learn from interviews that we watch, or give our insight on matches that we watch. But we're not going to be getting too much into his personal life or anything like that. We're going to keep it just into wrestling. We don't need to talk about divorces and other types of disputes he may have had in his past. This is just about the career of Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, with that said, though, like I said, we're going to go through some of his early aspects of his career tonight. And what we want to do maybe one day is leave some of it for bonus episodes. So, like, for instance, he has this great match with Bobby Eaton in WCW for the TV title. We could do an episode on that and talk a little bit more about his early run in WCW and focus on that match. So we'd like to do some of that. So we're not going to cover everything tonight. We want to keep it brief. We want to keep this show about an hour, okay, or under an hour every time, because we know podcast listeners have numerous podcasts to listen to. So we want to be listener friendly in that aspect. We don't want to drag it out. We don't want you to listen to a 3-hour podcast, as good as it could be. We want to keep it short for you so you can listen to it on a commute, on the way home, or on your jog at the gym, or your jog on the road, or your walk on the road.
Yeah.
When you tell your wife that you're going for a jog, but you're actually going for a walk.
For a walk, yeah. Hit up the liquor store.
Remember that story?
Yeah.
I can't be giving too much inside jokes, but JV and I have been friends for a long time, so that's one thing that we may slip up on from time to time, is something inside joke that nobody out there would ever understand. And there was this one time where this guy was walking, and he was all in jogging clothes and everything. Me and JV were driving, and JV just bust out this line. You remember what it was?
No, I don't. I remember the
Oh.
situation though, but I don't remember the punchline. I'm just loaded with them, so I've forgotten them over time, I guess. I don't know.
Actually, I don't even know how appropriate it is for me to say, but he's walking down the street. This guy, he's like, yeah, he's probably just ran a mile and now he's trying to catch a breather. We're just driving by, and JV's like, "You walking, man. Tell your wife you're going for a jog. You walking."
Oh, now I remember. Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that. That's hilarious. I do. I said it something like, "You told your wife you're going for a jog, and you walking. You out here walking." That's funny.
So, anyways, JV and I have been close friends all the way back to 1996, during when this time starts for this show. So it's interesting to go back down memory lane, like JV said moments ago. So we're going to go through his 1996 all the way to 2003. And like I said, we have it mapped out to be about a year. It's probably going to be a little over that, so maybe like 59 episodes. Just a little over a year, and if we do any bonus additional episodes, go longer than that. Okay, but that's the bottom line on this bottom line podcast. All right, so with that said, we're going to kind of dive back into the early part of his career. Okay, like I said, not in full detail, but just some of the highlights before he got to WWF. And one of the things that you probably can't leave out when you talk about Steve Austin is his name, Steve Austin. Okay? If you're a fan of Steve Austin, you listen to this, I get this. You're probably going to hear stories you heard over before, but hey, what are we going to do? We're doing a Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. We're going to touch on the greatest hits. And we're not insiders, so you're not going to get much inside information. But if you're kind of a novice to Stone Cold Steve Austin, then we'll probably got some good information for you. And if you're a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, you probably don't mind hearing the same stories over again anyway. So, with Steve Austin, his name is not Steve Austin.
It's Steve Williams.
Steve Williams, right? But even before that, and this is something that I failed to remember for some reason, but his name was Steve Anderson originally.
Oh.
And Steve Williams was his stepfather's name. He took on that name.
See, I didn't know that. That's
Looking back, I don't know how I missed it. I mean, I read his book and a bunch of documentaries. They don't really ever mention that, but it's out there a few places. So Steve Anderson, to Steve Williams, then finally to Steve Austin. So, of all people to give him the name, it goes all the way back to his time in USWA, United States Wrestling Association. That was run by Jerry Jarrett. So I guess Jerry Jarrett had sent Steve to Tennessee, and the booker in Tennessee was Dutch Mantell, who becomes
Zeb Coulter.
Zeb Coulter. We
the people. Oh, I wonder how that go over now.
So Dutch Mantell says, "You can't be Steve Williams," and Austin doesn't realize why, which to any real wrestling fan, you know why, because Steve Williams is a wrestler already.
Yeah, Dr. Death. Yeah.
Dr. Death Steve Williams, and Austin didn't even realize that. And you would think Austin, an athlete, college football player, would know of Steve Williams, Dr. Death. Probably just slipped his mind. But anyways, Dutch Mantell said you have to come up with a new name. And Steve Austin's saying, "Oh, what the hell am I going to do? This is like a career decision." So he can come up with something, as most people wouldn't. If you tell me to come up with a cool name that you're going to have for a long time as a wrestler, or if that's in his mind, I'm going to be this great superstar. It means a lot to him to come up with a good name. So it was time for the match, and Dutch Mantell said, "Listen, you're fucking Steve Austin. Get the hell out there." so he's like, "Okay." And, they were in Texas. Well, they weren't in Texas at the time, but he's from Texas, so they went with Austin, Texas. I guess there was another wrestler called Killer Buddy Austin, Dutch Mantell knew of, so he kind of took the name from that. Steve Austin was like, man, that's a kind of shitty name. There already is a Steve Austin.
There's already a famous Steve Austin.
There's already a famous Steve Austin. Yeah, the $6 million man, Steve Austin. When doing the research for this show, and I heard that, $6 million man, Steve Austin, it got me to thinking, there's no way that Vince McMahon did not factor that in when coming up with the Ringmaster gimmick. And, well, not just the Ringmaster gimmick, but having the Ringmaster be with Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man. Vince McMahon felt like, oh, great, we got to do that. You got to put the $1 Million Man with Steve Austin. We can't call him Steve Austin. We got to make it the Ringmaster. So anyway, that's a little breakdown on his name. Okay, other things though that Dutch taught him at the time is that kind of when you break into the business, you need to sit there and watch every match. You don't just go have your match and go about your night and go leave and go to the next town. Dutch Mantel really wanted him to kind of get understanding of all the wrestlers, all the different types of styles that were there. So he had him sit and watch every match, and obviously it worked out for him. He learned a lot early on. He's going to become the Rookie of the Year, PWI, and how important you think that is, that's up to you. But I remember when I was a kid, PWI was end all be all.
Yeah.
There was no internet to get information about wrestling, so you got a magazine, you got Pro Wrestling Illustrated, you had Inside Wrestling, The Wrestler, and we're talking about early mid-90s here, just to give you a little frame of reference of what we're talking about. Again, we were teenagers during this time.
Yeah, not an online newsletter, an actual magazine that you get from like a CVS, a magazine store. There used to be an actual magazine store. But so now that's what we were working with back then. We didn't have all that access to information, so we relied on a few sources that had the capital to kind of put their stuff out there on the shelves.
Right. Yeah, my favorite part about looking at those PWI magazines was looking at the rankings.
Yeah, me too. I loved it.
Coming up the ranks.
Yep.
I remember Steve Austin being in there. I'll talk more about it as I go through his career a little bit more, but right from the start, I was interested in Steve Austin. Popped out to me in the magazine. And we're from a WWF area, too, so we didn't really see much of WCW. We did have, obviously, TBS. Everybody did. Well, I don't know how much you watched WCW early on, like in the early 90s.
Yeah, I watched a good amount. Yeah, I watched some. My father liked WCW, and so we used to watch. I watched a good amount of WCW actually with him on TBS, and I believe it actually came on after Sanford and Son, because I remember we'd record it on VHS, and sometimes we'd go back and rewatch it. That's how recording stuff on VHS, good old 90s, and. So we'd go back and watch, but I always remember we'd catch like the first few minutes of the end of Sanford and Son. So
I know why, because your dad probably scheduled the timer to be 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it didn't start until 6:05, so you got the last 5 minutes.
Oh, you see? Yeah, that makes sense. So that's. So I did watch. I did watch a good amount of WCW growing up. Sting was my guy. Everyone, some people had Hogan, Warrior. Sting was kind of my guy. So
I didn't really get into until like I would say '94.
Yep.
That's about when Steve Austin was having a good little run in the WCW.
Right. I remember the Hollywood Blondes. I remember Stunning Steve Austin. I mean, I can't remember everything they did. It's small bits and pieces, but I remember them, and they were. I remember flying Brian Pillman with the Cincinnati Bengals tights. So.
All right. So just to wrap up the last part of what I was talking about. Before I brought up the PWI and all that, is that he got the Rookie of the Year, and he had a mentor, and obviously in Dutch Mantel, and also Chris Adams, who would also have some great early matches back in 1989, 1990 in USWA. So those are potential bonus episodes for us to watch and talk about one day also. He moves on to WCW, and he gets listed to being from Hollywood, California. What do you think of that? He's a Texas. He has a Texas accent. His name's Steve Austin, but now he's Hollywood, California. And they probably just wanted to spice him up a little bit, make him seem like this big star.
Yeah, the blonde hair too. I mean, I don't know.
Blonde hair. So he's listed from California, just like Sting's listed from California. Hogan's listed from California, so maybe they're thinking, if we can say California, then you got a potential big star already. Because if you say somebody's from California, all these rednecks and losers are gonna think that is a big star. Not to say that that's what they.
That was insinuating. That way. Insinuating that was their mindset. You know how corporations work. It's stereotypes. That's what they do.
That's exactly. Especially in the wrestling industry.
Yeah, come on.
Let's look at all the gimmicks that came out through the 90s.
Don't act blind to it.
All stereotypes.
Yeah. They still exist.
Yeah,
that's an episode for another topic for another episode.
And so a couple of the highlights from this time was, like I said earlier, the Bobby Eaton episode. It was a TV title match. Match for Bobby Eaton. But it was a TV title, so it kind of works. That was the cool thing about the TV title, is that it would be a title that was always on an episode of, WCW Saturday Night. That's where they defended it usually, other than pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main titles that they'd actually put title matches on. So he wins a match against Bobby Eaton. Great match. Wins kind of a sneaky, sloppy way. But that's another match I'd like to talk about one day. And so he gets the title very early on. This is in June 1991 where he's winning this title. And he comes in with one valet at first, and the name slips my mind at this time, but it's not that important because she doesn't last very long at all. And he ends up being with Jeannie Adams, who was Chris Adams' wife, and then eventually becomes Steve Austin's wife. So he got trained by Chris Adams, takes his wife. I don't know all the whole dynamics of that. And like I said, I don't want to talk too much about his own personal life, but he ends up being brought to the ring by his wife that used to be the wife of his trainer. And she is something else. I can go back now and it's like, wow, that girl fits for today.
Yeah, she definitely stands time.
We're talking about Lady Blossom. Lady Blossom, smoking. Even Dusty Rhodes named her that way. Named her Lady Blossom because her bosoms were blossoming out of her blouse. That's what he had said from some interviews that I've read and listened to in podcasts. He was supposed to get a potential push for the U.S. title and have Harley Race as his manager, who was a good manager at the time. He had Vader with him, and this would have been another little boost for Steve Austin, but didn't end up working out that way. And then they stuck him with Brian Pillman as a tag team, which anybody that's a fan of Steve Austin knows that they become a very great tag team. But at the time, it was just taking two mid-carders who had nothing really going on, and they were promised a lot, but they get stuck in a tag team. And oftentimes, when people are stuck in a tag team, it doesn't really work out. Especially, if you're watching wrestling in the modern day, you see they just kind of put people together all the time, and most of the time, it's never a hit. But in this case, it was a hit. And Pillman and Austin started working together, and they're both great wrestlers already. Very sound wrestlers, high-fly wrestlers, technical wrestlers. And at this time, Steve Austin is not the Steve Austin that he becomes in WWF. He's not, the ass-kicking son of a bitch.
Yeah.
He's a technical wrestler that's like a Bret Hart at this point. So they have a great dynamic as a tag team, and both solid heels when they become heels. Austin's kind of heelish already at that point, but Pillman was coming off being freshly a babyface. Mm-hmm. So now Pillman is becoming heel, and they're working together as a great heel team, cutting off the ring, keeping people on one side, sneaking in when the ref's not looking, and getting the guy back in the corner. So all those classic types of tag team moves, they were doing them. And they become the Hollywood Blondes because Pillman brings up the fact that we need to have a name. Otherwise, we're that generic tag team of Austin and Pillman.
Yeah, commit to it. They committed to it. Yeah.
Right. If we're going to be a good team, we need to have a good name. We need to have a gimmick. We need to have, like, a Heart Foundation, the Nasty Boys, the Natural Disasters, the Road Warriors. Just, every team.
The Bushwhackers.
The Bushwhackers. every team that had any success as a team, even if it's a team like the Bushwhackers, and they didn't have championships, but they were a successful team because they had a character, and it wasn't just two guys wearing different tights coming down the ring with their own separate names and with no tag team name. So it's a lot more exciting for the Hollywood Blondes to come out, the same music, and wearing the same type of trunk, same colors to match, and then you realize, oh, this is a team, not just two jabronis that were forced to work together. So they said, we got to be a team if we're going to do this, and they took it to an extreme. Have you got to see any Hollywood Blondes lately? I did some research, and I know you said you were going to do some research.
Yeah, I went back and I watched a lot of their promos during their feud with the Four Horsemen. And one thing I really captured from that, which was great, was Stone Cold, how great he was at even back then at just attacking individuals and just making fun of them with the jokes and everything. And he gets Arn Anderson, Flair, and was it Paul Roma, I believe.
Yeah.
He gets
Paul Roma.
he just destroys them, and it's awesome. I recommend go back and watch some of the greatest hits as the Hollywood Blondes. During their feud with the Four Horsemen, and it's great.
Yeah, some hilarious stuff. That's they did the Flair for the Old.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Yeah, the Flair for the Old.
Flair,
Yeah.
Flair for the Old, because Ric Flair had his own talk show segment during that time, and it was Flair for the Gold.
Yep.
They went with Flair for the Old. Yeah, that's some funny stuff.
Yeah. Like he's like, you got an oldie, a gorilla or something. I think he was referring to Arn Anderson and an idiot, and it's good stuff. Just how he had that Stone Cold in him during the Hollywood Blonde. It's just you lose that over time. So to go back and watch that was just I was like, damn, this is.
It's funny you don't see it because he wasn't that at the time.
Yeah.
But then knowing what he becomes, like, oh yeah, there it was. He already was that. So while they're getting hot, they're getting funny. They're getting people to talk about them.
And they're putting on good matches.
Yeah, they're putting on good matches. They're winning the title. They're
exciting.
The title. They get it back.
Yep.
So they're totally involved in the tag team scene. One of the best tag teams of that era, definitely in WCW. They could have been a top tag team in WWF at the time. But it ends abruptly.
Yep.
So they just split the guys up again.
Yeah, it was.
The logic. What are you gonna
was
say?
with Colonel Parker, right? He starts he starts hyping up Steve Austin as like, oh, he's like, if he was a racehorse, he'd be. And he started naming some other racehorse, I forget who. And then Pillman, like, you need a lot of work. And then Pillman attacks Parker, and Steve Austin, starts kicking at Pillman on the ground, and that kind of started off, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, so they split him up, and before Austin probably would have been like, yeah, great, I'm getting a nice little push again. But he was now really good friends with Pillman. They had something great going on, and then they just, oh, well, now you guys are over. Let's split you up and have you as singles. And I guess a lot of the logic that goes behind it, and I heard this from Eric Bischoff's podcast, in that it was better to have them as singles wrestlers, because if you're going to pay them both the same anyway, then you should have them in two separate matches.
So, from a business perspective.
From a business perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, I guess, the logic behind making that decision. Which, you can make money with tag teams, too, if you commit to it.
Right, and I think that ended way too soon.
Yeah.
So
anyways, he gets another run, Austin. Gets another singles run. And then he starts to have some great classic matches with Ricky Steamboat. So, I mean, who can't have Ricky Steamboat classic matches? Everybody that has matches with Ricky Steamboat, they're always classic. If you have like more than one match with Steamboat, they get remembered as being these great matches. Like Savage, Ric Flair, and then Austin. So Ricky Steamboat, I think he's still underrated. Even though people talk up his matches being great, he still flies under the radar for a lot of
absolutely
wrestling.
Yeah.
All right, so Steamboat recognized Austin being this excellent in-ring worker, and he basically told Austin, you're not missing anything. You got it all. You just need to work on character more, and eventually your character is going to break through, and you'll have all the tools at that point. So great vote of confidence from Ricky Steamboat.
As respected as they get at that time as a performer. So
he goes to having some great matches with Steamboat, and then 1995, he gets stuck in a spot where he's having some crap-ass matches with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who's newly in WCW, and they want to push him. Because this is a time now where Hogan is there. I think Savage is coming in. He may have already been in at that point. But we're getting a lot of the old WWF wrestlers in at that time. And, whatever, good for them. People still liked them. That still brought a crowd to the audience more than WCW had previously.
And I think WCW also felt it made them feel more legitimate too, because they were getting guys from the from the big dog.
Right, you're getting guys that come over from WWF, and they're recognized names. So, Hacksaw being a recognized name, Hacksaw is getting the push and getting the U.S. title, and beating Steve Austin in like 9-second matches or 15-second matches.
Awful.
So, yeah, totally awful. Now looking back, I thought it was awful at the time because I was already a Steve Austin fan at that point during the Hollywood Blondes and then into his second singles run, which is, this run. And he's losing to Duggan. And eventually, because he's injured for a while, he gets fired. I guess the story is Eric Bischoff fires him because he's making too much money for not working that much. Yep. And he was stuck in the mid-card, and they didn't have really any plans for him to rise up any more than that. So they just let him go. And they thought it was just a cost-cutting thing. I guess, Steve Austin was very bitter about it at the time, which should be, as he's competitive, he wants to work, and that's being taken away from him. So he gets fired, I guess, through a phone call, and then he gets a FedEx in the mail. It says he terminated, and that's it for WCW and Steve Austin, and he ain't ever going back.
The one that got away.
Yeah. And he's the one that's going to be the one that starts to kick their ass in the ratings eventually.
Yep.
When it comes down to that.
Comes full circle.
Monday Night Wars. Yep. So Steve Austin has a little brief stint in ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, at the end of 1995, right after his firing. And he really can't wrestle much. He does do a couple matches, but Paul Heyman reaches out to Austin and says, come on in. You have a chip on your shoulder? Great. Come on over, cut promos. And Steve Austin's going to cut some of the greatest promos. We're going to play one for you in a minute or so. Back to Paulie and Paul Heyman. Used to go by Paulie Dangerously. I'm sure you're aware. And he had this great faction in WCW called the Dangerous Alliance. It was like a new version of like a Four Horsemen. Mm-hmm. Of Rick Rude, Steve Austin. I don't know. I forget who else at the time, but it was a damn good faction. And Medusa was in it.
That's right. They had Medusa. Yeah.
So, a few solid people. Larry Zbyszko. Yep. So, Dangerous Alliance. Solid faction in WCW. And that's how he kind of made a connection with Paul Heyman. So, Paul Heyman brings him in. Says, cut some promos about what you're unhappy about. So, we're going to go to one of the greatest promos that Steve Austin ever cut, even before his time as Steve Austin. This holds up. He talks about all the things that really pissed him off leading up to this point in 1995. He does some great Dusty promos.
Some nice impersonations.
Yeah, some impersonations. And I'm not going to do them here, but you'll hear them.
They'll come out eventually. Yeah.
All right, so let's go to that clip. It's about 7 minutes, so bear with it, but it's worth it.
A couple of weeks ago, when Eric Bischoff told his secretary to tell her secretary to leave a message on my answering machine for me to call Eric Bischoff. And then I called Eric Bischoff, and he proceeded to fire me over the phone. I thought a big cloud was lifted off the career of Steve Austin. Because gone were the days where I'd go up to someone and say, hey, what about me and Sting? We got this big thing going. How about the cage? And someone says, no, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now. Well, then I said, well, how about me and Savage? Man, I got this great idea, man. He comes in, he's got the Slim Jim deal. Well, hell, I got... No, Steve, that's for somebody else, baby. Then you go... I've got this great idea I can do with Hulk Hogan. I'm going to be the Steve-O-Maniac, and we're going to take this thing all the way because Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania was the biggest thing to ever come down to wrestling's pike. And they say, no, that's not for you, brother. You can't do that. We're going to keep you right where you are. I said, how about me and Brian get back together? The Hollywood Blondes, it was the best tag team to come along in 10 years. And they say, no, Steve, we need you in a singles role, man. We need you to do this. We're going to put the U.S. title on you, and then we're going to take you here, and then you're the number one contender, so then you get this world title shot. Well, all that never happened. So there I am, floundering along. There's nothing going my way because the politics in WCW kept the biggest potential superstar in wrestling on the damn ground. What are you supposed to do? On one hand, they're paying you a bunch of money. They're paying me a bunch of money. Well, on this hand, they're telling me, hey, go out there and give Bagwell a hell of a match. Go out there with an 18-year-old German kid. Give him 7 good minutes. Let the people see what he can do. They say you are what you eat. In WCW, they didn't feed me nothing but garbage. So I let myself become garbage. I became complacent with everything that they said. As long as Big Ted kept sending in the checks, maybe I wasn't happy with what was going on, but I became complacent. Then they send me to Japan, the big injury. Bischoff delivers a shot heard around the damn world. Steve Austin's out of the high-paying job. All of a sudden, the phone starts ringing off the hook. It's ECW. It's the WWF. It's All Japan. It's New Japan. And all Steve Austin's got to do is make a decision. Todd Gordon, whether he mortgaged his house 1 time, 2 times, maybe 3 times, came up with the right figure for Steve Austin to make a decision. I strolled into the ECW arena. It's the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen. I broke in a building called the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, home of the world-famous Von Erichs. Anybody that was anybody stepped foot in the Dallas Sportatorium. For the last 2 years, all you've heard about anywhere in wrestling is the famous ECW arena. Debut night, I roll in. You've got the Sandman. You've got the Raven. You got the Pit Bulls. You got Stevie Richards. You got the Public Enemy. You got the Gangsters. You got Mikey Whipwreck, whatever the hell his name is. You got a bunch of damn misfits running around thinking that they can actually wrestle. All I've seen in ECW is a bunch of violent crap. And that's exactly what I'll call it, because that's what it is. Steve Austin is here to wrestle. It's what I do best. It's what I do better than anybody in the world. Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, they got the big send-off. Tears were in everybody's eyes. It was a big deal. All Steve Austin got was a good swift kick in the ass as Bischoff hung up the phone and left me high and dry. There's no Hogans here. There's no Flairs here. There's not a Dusty Rhodes. And there damn sure isn't an Eric Bischoff here. There's no one that can hold back Steve Austin now. Stunning, tossed it out the window. Never was meant to be. ECW is going to find out firsthand what Steve Austin can do. And I'm going to show everybody here exactly what a true superstar is supposed to do. What a true superstar is supposed to be. Because no one here can hold me back. Not Todd Gordon. Not Hulk Hogan. Not Eric Bischoff. Nobody. I'm going to be the superstar that I always knew that I could be. Because there's no one in ECW that can stop me.
All right, hope you enjoyed that clip. I mean, some great things in there. Dusty Rhodes. Oh, baby. No, we're not doing that for you, baby. No. It's like everything that Steve Austin wanted to do to be Dusty's like, no, that's not for you, baby. Not for you, baby. So, hope you enjoyed it. Now, a couple other things that happened in ECW. I said he had a couple of matches, and all his matches are really just with the Sandman and Mikey Whipwreck.
Good old Mikey Whipwreck.
Yeah,
Yep.
Good solid workers.
Yeah.
You know, Sandman, solid worker. But what's funny about the correlation between them and Steve Austin, who would become Stone Cold Steve Austin, is that you have the Sandman. His character is a beer drinking fan favorite. Comes to the ring, drinking beer, smashes beer cans on his head.
Yep.
And he's kind of like a fan favorite that is a badass and doesn't care about authority. Sounds familiar.
Just a little bit. Just a little familiar.
And then you have Mikey Whipwreck, who he wrestled, whose finishing move was called the Whippersnapper, which is what would become Stone Cold Stunner. Now, there's other stories about where he got the character from and where he got the finisher from. And, hey, that could be true, but this just seems too good to be not true.
Yeah, he built up all these life experiences, and those were buried in the back of his head. And when he was, probably thinking of it all, this is what he came up with.
So, in my opinion, those are key developments in the Stone Cold persona. I don't care what WWE Network says on their documentaries and who came up with the Stone Cold Stunner or what he wrote in his book about who told him to use the stunner. I think they say Doc Hendricks, Michael Hayes told him to use a stunner. So, he works for the WWE still. So
yeah, those are vital organs in the Stone Cold persona.
Yeah, think what you might.
Yeah, come on.
And
beer and stunners.
Yeah. And we'll get to more about Michael Hayes and his story with Steve Austin. As you know, he's the guy standing on the stage when the 316 promo gets cut.
Yep.
When he's, Doc Hendricks. All right, so that finishes up his 1995 in December with his matches at November to Remember and December to Dismember at ECW. And at that time, he's signed with WWE. He signed with WWE in December of 95. It may have been signed earlier, but he makes his debut in December of 95 at TV tapings. But we'll get to those in a second. So he's wrestling as the Ringmaster, but he hasn't made his official on-screen debut. That won't come until January 9th, 1996. He's going to make his debut as the Ringmaster. He's going to be debuted by the $1 Million Man on a rare edition at this time, 1996, of the Brother Love Show.
Yep.
We're going to play that for you. Okay, it's about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, so just get right into it. We'll talk about our thoughts right after the promo. So take a listen.
Yeah, that's next week, but lots more coming up this week. Brother Love right now. And Ted DiBiase's in the ring. We're going to find out. Look at that beautiful belt. Just who is the new $1 Million champion?
For the entire year of 1995, I have searched and searched and searched in the hopes that I could find someone who would exemplify what I feel a $1 Million champion should be. But I searched in vain.
That's some belt.
And in frustration until finally, Brother Love, I have found him. So without any further ado,
Who is it?
I give you the Ringmaster.
Come on, where is he? And here he comes. The new $1 Million champion.
Everybody's got a prize.
The Ringmaster.
Everybody's
I'm impressed,
gonna pay.
man. What about you? Oh, very impressed. This man's skills, very well known. You talk about a grappler. You talk about a man that can mix it up in any fashion at all.
Physical specimen. And although you haven't seen him wrestle, when you do, you'll know why. He is a $1 Million champion. He is the $1 Million champion. And Ringmaster, right here in front of everybody, I want to officially
crown you my $1 million champion.
Behold, brothers and sisters! Behold, the $1 million champion, Brother Ringmaster! That belt would rival the
I'm
crown.
going to go out on a limb here, man. Back up a little bit, brother. Everybody out there in TV land, I'm going to give you a chance to be somebody. Come on, get the camera on that hand right there. I want everybody out there in TV land to touch your screen and feel what it's like to be destined for success.
Go ahead, King. I got it up there.
Feel what it's like to be
Well, I'm
born
already
a
successful.
champion, man.
You better put your hand up there, McMahon.
I didn't come out here just to run my mouth, Brother Love. I'm here to prove every single thing I say. Me and the $1 Million Man talk. I'm in the Royal Rumble, man. I'm going to prove how good the Ringmaster is. After I toss every single one of the WWF superstars over that rope right there, man, I'll be the one getting the shot at the World Wrestling Federation Championship. It doesn't mean anything compared to the $1 Million belt, of course. But in WrestleMania, man, I'm going to do it all, and you're going to see what the $1 Million Man and the $1 Million Champ are going to accomplish. And then I'll have every single thing that I want out of the WWF. And why is that? Because everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Well, I told you, McMahon, there'll be bombshells dropping tonight, and that was just one of them. No question about it. Yet to come, ladies and gentlemen, Bret the Hitman Hart against Davey Boy Smith. The British Bulldog in a graphic matchup. The question was asked of the official, referee Earl Hebner, why didn't you stop the match? Why didn't you stop it?
I knew he was bleeding awful bad, and I kept talking to him, and I kept asking him to say my name, and I'd hold up some fingers during the match and say how many fingers do I have up. So I knew he was conscious and he didn't know what I was talking about.
Plus, the Huckster will join us. Yep, Billionaire Ted's Wrestling War Room and a bombshell there for sure. Plus, when did you get a lot of the footage from Shawn Michaels' press conference?
All right, so one thing that I really love about that promo is Steve Austin finally starts talking. He gets his turn on the mic. You can see, like you said before, JV, that he has that Stone Cold already in him.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, to cut a mean
Straight
promo at
shooting,
this point.
badass
But
persona.
what I like that. What I like though, really about it, has how he just changed his character kind of, and he was acting like he was one of those televangelists,
Yeah. Yes.
like Brother Love is supposed to be, that character, and he's sticking his hand to the camera, and he's like, "Everybody out on TV land, grab my hand."
And that's the stuff I ate up as a wrestling fan as a child, and it's the same stuff I eat up as a wrestling fan now. Just that kind of stuff. It's good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was excellent stuff.
Like they're bringing us in, you know.
Right. It's like we're part of it. He's talking to us, and he's gonna run through them all, and he does. So that's one of the great things about this promo is he says he's gonna do something, and he ultimately does do it. Doesn't seem like it in the beginning when he's the ringmaster, but he's gonna get there, and he's gonna go through all those top guys in the business. Another side note that I wanted to say about this is being debuted by Brother Love and Ted DiBiase. It's not the first time that they debuted a WWE Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, superstar. The first time they did it together was 6 years previous at the Survivor Series 1990, when the $1 Million Man needed a mystery partner.
Oh, I remember this clearly.
And he brings out the mystery partner as The Undertaker with Brother Love as his manager. So it's interesting to see that one wrestler that they debuted in 1990 together became this huge star, and then they do it here again in 1996, introducing the $1 Million champion that $1 Million Man was looking all over for, and brought him out on the Brother Love show. And then he becomes one of the greatest superstars in the history of the sport. So that's just a little trivia, just for you to think about.
Two wrestlers on the list of greatest of all time. They're on that list somewhere. How high they are, but they're there.
And brought up by, at the time, two of the randomest people.
Yeah.
Ted DiBiase and Brother Love.
Yep.
Now we know Brother Love is important because of his behind the stage activities.
Of course.
Chris Pritchard. To most wrestling fans at the time, they'd be like, Brother Love, the heck? And we can look back now and be like, oh yeah, Brother Love's important. Brother Love's cool because he's cool now. But
Yeah, but when I was a child, I was like, this guy.
This
He just
guy, shut
starts
up.
screaming.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah.
No, I guess he's doing his
He
job.
did
though,
his job. He
because-
was great at it. Yeah.
He got us to be like, shut up. Dude.
I remember that. Even my father would be like, this guy. It's like Bummer City.
He was on like every week for like
I know.
years. From like 89 to 91. He was on for it. I think he went on, I'm not sure, but I think his show went on all the way up until Paul Bearer got his show. The Funeral Parlor.
Oh, that
That's
was another great one.
I think that's where the transition was. That Brother Love went backstage. Actually, I think he maybe got fired at that point. But anyway, move on from Brother Love. This is Steve Austin's show. All right, so Austin actually takes more time in this segment than he does in the next 6 months, and we're gonna notice that over the next 6 episodes. Is that there's not gonna be many Austin promos being cut. We're gonna find maybe a few here and there, but he doesn't talk much. He becomes that Stone Cold character, and early Stone Cold is Stone Cold. He doesn't talk. He's pissed off, and eventually he'll break through that, and he'll become what you remember. But early on, it's not that case. So this is kind of a departure from what we're going to see going forward. That he talks a lot here, and then he doesn't at all. Okay, and it's interesting because we just listened to an ECW promo, so anybody that knows him at this point at WWF should have realized, oh, this guy can cut promos. And then after cutting that one on the Brother Love show, they should have known, oh, we got something good here. But
Yeah, they should have
silenced
saw
him.
that right away.
Yeah, they
They went from-
silenced him right after.
They gave him a pacifier instead
Yeah.
of giving him, a microphone. It's just,
Yeah.
it was weird.
Well, they gave him Ted DiBiase, too,
Yeah.
to speak for him. He doesn't need anybody to speak for him.
Yeah, he could have been used elsewhere.
Yeah.
Someone else that actually needed it.
Well, anyways, obviously this idea of a ringmaster, it sounds like a circus act. And Steve Austin probably thinks that too, and he thought the idea totally sucked. And he had been working his ass off for the last 5 years, having great runs as champion, and now he's just character. And when he was told about the character, he's like, screw it, I need the job, I'm going to do it, whatever.
Got bills to pay.
But immediately he's looking to try and change it up, and we'll get into the whole change from Ringmaster to Stone Cold on the next episode next week. But that's not gonna, Ringmaster doesn't last long. It's really just 1 month and then it's gone. And I'm glad it was gone. It felt like it was around for much longer. I don't know why.
Well, we're bombarded with so much more content now that back then it wasn't
That's
as,
true.
it was once a week.
Right.
And,
And he didn't wrestle every week either.
Right. Yep.
So it was kind of like dragging out. But yeah, it was really only a month. And like I said, it was a good move for him to just say, the hell with this. And a couple things I want to point out, though, about his character as the Ringmaster that we failed to mention is that he cut his hair off.
Yes.
Right? So when he was in WCW, he had long hair that was kind of balding.
Or he had the little side pot with the Hollywood blondes, like the Better Call Saul pot.
Yeah. Yep. So he's already going bald.
A little longer on one
93,
side.
94.
Yeah.
And then he had it longer. And if you watch that ECW promo that we played, he has long hair in that because he's acting as Hogan in one part. No, that's a different one, actually. But he does a promo as Hogan in ECW. And it's Steve-A-Mania. And he has long hair there. But right before coming to WWF, he cuts his hair short, got like a crew cut. And he's wearing emerald shorts, emerald tights. And instead of the black, which he'll eventually wear for the rest of his career.
It's like $1 Million Man green. Emerald. Yeah.
Yep. But then he has his WCW boots on. He's wearing white boots with black star. Those are his same exact boots from his time in WCW. And he probably, I think he even wore them in ECW when he was going by the character. Well, his gimmick was Superstar Steve Austin. So it just shows right there, though, that there was no plan in the gimmick of the Ringmaster. Like, oh, you're going to be this Ringmaster. We're going to put you with DiBiase, but you're going to wear your old boots and you're going to just wear green trunks. and shave your head. And then we're not going to let you talk after you're on the Brother Love show.
But you're the $1 million champion, and that means something. So.
Yeah. So ultimately, like, no plan behind him. So as I said before, we got into little details about the Brother Love show and his debut on January 9th. His first matches were recorded TV tapings a month earlier. Okay, on December 18th, 1995 was his first debut match. And he debuts against somebody that ultimately is going to be WWE Hall 2.
Yep. In
Matt Hardy. His very first match with Matt Hardy, when Matt Hardy was in his enhancement role phase, jobber phase, if you will. I don't like how some wrestling fans will get offended, like if you say jobber. Like,
can't please everybody. Some people are sensitive, some people aren't.
Yeah, it's like you're not in the business either.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you call a baseball player, like a professional baseball player, or any other professional, garbage. It's like you're performing at the highest level. Like you just
They're not garbage.
Yeah.
that's just the role we grew up with.
Yeah, exactly.
And how did I learn this term anyway? If it wasn't what was used.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, and we were calling these people's jobbers.
Jobbers.
Who made it up?
Scrubs. It's the scrubs.
Well, they were.
That's what we used to call them in the video games.
They were for a reason.
Yeah.
It's not that they were bad. They were just doing a role where they lose all the time. No big deal. So
they're jobbing the
making
show.
money. Yeah, actually, jobbing. So Matt Hardy was doing the jobs.
Yeah, there it is.
At the time, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, or the Ringmaster in this case, was the first opponent for the Ringmaster, rather. Okay, so
did you watch any of that? I watched the Matt Hardy match, and it's kind of funny how he still moved the same. Like you can still tell it's Matt Hardy, not just by the look, just by the way like he has like a hop when he moves, like I don't know, it's like he's on the ball of his feet or something. You just see Matt Hardy, even though he looks older somehow years ago.
Yeah.
But
he just has short hair, little facial hair.
Yeah.
I think he had a little facial hair. Can't remember for sure. He had some ugly ass trunks on though.
Yeah, they were like a blue.
And they were baby blue, and it said HV on the back. I don't know what the HV is. I'm trying to think Hardy something, but I had no clue what the HV is. Maybe he was going by another name on Independence.
Yep.
At the same time.
But it was a good match. I was like, hey, it was a well paced match. It was quick and hard hitting. Like it was. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, he had a nice couple moves. And Matt Hardy wasn't totally getting jobbed. He was putting some offense in.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a good match for a short match that was on WWF Superstars. Actually, no, it was on Raw. This match was on Raw. Mm-hmm. Yep. So if anybody wants to watch it, it was Raw 143 from January 16th, 1996. It comes on at the 14-minute mark. If you ever want to watch that, so go back to this timestamp and take a look at it. It's interesting to see young Matt Hardy against Steve Austin. And the match ends in a $1 million dream, so Ringmaster's using Ted DiBiase's finishing move. You have this great technical wrestler, and the best we can do is give him a sleeper hold. Put the guy to sleep. He does use one of his major setup moves prior to the $1 million dream. He does the stun gun. A stun gun is where he holds the wrestler by the legs, his opponent by the legs, and then drops the wrestler on the top rope on the chest. So then he springs off the rope and then back onto the floor. And from that point, he put on the $1 million dream. So, decent match, check it out. And there was another match he had just the next day. And like I said, it was recorded December 18th. We recorded another match December 19th for our Superstars taping. And then it's another person of name. I don't think this guy's a future Hall of Famer, but never know. Coco Beware's in the Hall of Fame, so never know. Could be Scotty 2 Hotty in the Hall of Fame, who at the time was going by Scott Taylor. Scott Taylor was also an independent wrestler from the area we're from, Massachusetts.
Yep, local guy.
So we used to see him at the Fall River Police Athletic League, PAL. It was, what was the promotion called back then?
Yankee Pro Wrestling,
Yankee
I believe.
Pro Wrestling. And now it's called Top Rope Promotion. So shout out to them, Top Rope Promotions. Fall River, Massachusetts. But yeah, those are his first matches. Those are his only matches. He doesn't have any matches in January until he's in the Royal Rumble. Right, so that's our main event for tonight, for this episode. I'm saying tonight because it's night over here. So this first episode, our main event is the Royal Rumble match 1996. And we're not going to talk about the whole match because doesn't pertain to Steve Austin, but talk about some of the things that happened with the Ringmaster in that match. I'll give you a timestamp if you want to watch any of the action of the Ringmaster. Again, it's the Royal Rumble 1996, and it begins with Austin coming in at number 24 at 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 13 seconds, and he stays in the ring for about 11 minutes. So if you want to watch that and listen to our insight, it's only about 11 minutes long. All right, so he enters at 24, and there's some good people in the ring at the time. You got Diesel, Kama, comes the Godfather, Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yep.
Triple H. Owen Hart. Yeah, Bob Holly. Sparky Plug at the time. I think it was Sparky Plug.
I thought it was Sparkplug Bob Holly.
He had a few of them.
I don't know. I just watched that recently too, and I can't recall if he's dressed up in his.
He's
NASCAR
definitely
outfit.
dressed up. He is. He's definitely dressed up in the red one, I think, with the checkers on the side.
Yeah. Yep.
But he went by a few names still as the race car gimmick. He was Thurman Sparky Plug, and he was Sparky Plug, just Sparky Plug, and he was Bob Sparkplug Holly.
Yeah.
And then they finally did away with it gradually after that. It becomes Bob Holly. And then you have Shawn Michaels in the ring. So he's coming into the ring with a good amount of people, and there's not many more left to come to the ring. There's 6 more people coming to the ring.
Keeping that match interesting too. Shawn Michaels was. When you go back and watch that, you just see it. That guy is just a natural.
Oh yeah. So you can see also too, if you notice in the commentary, that they're going to do away with the Ringmaster gimmick very soon, because they're already referring to the Ringmaster as Steve Austin during the match.
Yep.
And they're calling him cold and calculating. So the ball may have already been rolling with the Stone Cold gimmick. They were just probably going to hold off until after the Royal Rumble.
And it was Vince on commentary, so.
Yeah, so he would know, and he would be the one approving it. So he refers to him as Steve Austin, cold and calculating. Okay, he has an elimination as the Ringmaster. He eliminates Bob Holly. It was his only elimination that year. And Bob Holly had been in the match 40 minutes at the time. So he was doing some work that night, Bob Holly. Maybe that's why he got to stay around for so long.
Yeah.
Now the Ringmaster's getting really put over during the match. Vince McMahon keeps mentioning him. And I think they had big plans for him right from the start, even though the gimmick kind of sucks. They have Perfect talking about Austin. Vince McMahon keeps talking about him. And then
The buzz was there. Between the decision makers over at WWF at the time.
Oh, yeah. But then something happens. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember when you were watching it, but Austin's just all of a sudden gone. He's no longer in the match.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't show his elimination. And they're like, where's Austin? Where's Austin? And he's eliminated. So Austin gets eliminated by Fatu. Okay, former head shrinker Fatu. Becomes Rikishi.
Yep.
And they're going to have a feud in a few years down the road, Austin and Rikishi. Rikishi, I guess, ran him over? Or something like that. It was like a little hit-and-run accident with Rikishi. We'll get into that in episodes to come. And then, after the match, I'll wrap up the Rumble match in a minute, but stick with Fatu. Austin will have a match against Fatu on the next Superstars taping, kind of as like a
grudge match.
retribution. Yeah. Get a little payback there. All right, so anyways, a couple other good things that I like to mention about the match is that you have Austin and Shawn Michaels squaring off for the first time in this match, which is really, just the beginning. Gives him a nice hard clothesline. So that was pretty cool to see. As I said, when Austin gets eliminated, it's just so random and it's out of nowhere. And I did a little research on it, and Austin was not supposed to be eliminated that early. So he screwed up, basically.
Yeah.
There's an interview that I listened to with Austin, and he says that he was supposed to be in the final 4, which would be a solid push for him at the time. But because of all the oil the wrestlers wear, he gets all of the ropes, that he was supposed to do a spot where he hangs on to the outside for a second and then gets back in. He slips out.
Yeah, he goes out. He goes out clean, though. You can see it
Yeah.
when you watch it. He goes.
Yep, so he just slips out by accident, and there's nothing he can do. He's thinking to himself, according to his interview, like, damn it, I screwed it up. Screwed up in the first shot. So everybody knows who they're supposed to eliminate when they're going in, and he feels like, he screwed it up. And I guess Shawn Michaels was supposed to eliminate him, so he had to walk by Shawn Michaels when he was leaving and just, like, put his hands up like, hey, I screwed up, dude. Sorry about that. So that's one thing that points out, and that's an interesting to take a look at when you watch this match.
Yeah.
Is that whole little incident. All right, so Shawn Michaels ends up winning. Okay, this is back-to-back for Shawn Michaels. He won last year in 95, and he wins here again in 96. Interesting little factoid is we're going to have Steve Austin, who in this match is supposed to be in the Final 4, screws up. Next year, he's going to win.
Yep.
And we're going to get to it, obviously, in the Royal Rumble 97 episode, but what's funny is he gets eliminated, but the referee doesn't see it, and then he sneaks back in the ring. So it's kind of like they're looking back at 96, like, Austin was eliminated, and he's eliminated almost like the same way in 97, but then he just sneaks right back in the ring this time. Like, no, I'm not just going to be eliminated this time. I'm getting back in the ring.
So clearly his goof at, the mishap at the Royal Rumble match 96 wasn't a big deal in changing how they felt about him long term.
Oh no! And then they even use it for creativity in the next Royal Rumble.
Yeah, which they did, which is great.
Yeah. So he goes on to win 97, 98. So we have Shawn Michaels winning back-to-back 95, 96, and then Austin's going to do it in 97, 98. So pretty interesting. Any other comments on Royal Rumble 96? The Ringmaster?
No, like I said, the Ringmaster was a forgettable time, but it was, it does hold its importance in, his development as a character and as a person. So, but not really much more to talk about the Ringmaster.
Yeah, not much more. All right. And next month, on the next episode that we cover, he's gone already. Ringmaster comes in, and he's gone. Maybe this was his way of getting the Ringmaster eliminated. Screwing up the finish. You're not pushing the Ringmaster. I'm out of this match.
Yeah. Master of the Ring falls out of the ring.
Yeah. He's like, nah, the Ringmaster gimmick's gone. Yeah. And so, that's
Ringmaster. It's like a poor Ghostbusters character. I'm the Keymaster. I'm the Ringmaster.
Yeah, so that's going to close up our episode 1 from Stunning to the Ringmaster. Next week, we're going to get into WrestleMania 12. And his first opponent is going to be Savio Vega. All right, so we're going to talk about the lead up to WrestleMania 12. So that means we're going to be covering February and March. Okay, so we'll be looking at Superstars Raw, all the stuff leading up to his match at WrestleMania 12 with Savio Vega. Now, you're going to have to bear with us in these early episodes. You're going to get some good information, but you got to bear with the opponent. Okay, because nothing against Savio Vega or Mark Marrow, those types. But basically, we're going through like the Batman's Rogue Gallery of like King Tut and
the Puppet Master.
The Puppet Master.
You're not getting the Joker and the Riddlers and the Two Faces here.
Exactly. You got to wait for them.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through the warm up characters first. So next week will be Savio Vega. You're interested in the show? Shoot us a line. I'm on Twitter at MPRU83. JV,
yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm at John Van Damage, and I tweet some wrestling stuff there. You want to reach out. I also have an Instagram page under the same title, but with underscores. So John_Van_damage, and sometimes I post some wrestling stuff there. And if you want to take a look at a cool belt, we have a very cool fantasy football championship.
Hurricane Rana championship.
So we have quite the background story there. So
yeah, we'll get to that. I think that's how our Twitter page for this podcast is at the Bottom Line Cast, and then also we have the at the Hurricane Rana, right?
Yes.
Is that the Hurricane Rana?
Yep,
Yeah.
at the Hurricane Rana.
The Hurricane Rana, like the move.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back next week with Savio Vega, WrestleMania 12. So long.